How's it going, everybody? Switch that to the right Discord window. And huzzah hurrah. We're here. Number 30 of the movie club. Where the curse continues. Whereas, the composer literally died 2 weeks ago. The curse continues. That's what I was saying. Anyway, so welcome to the discussion on a 40-year-old film that still feels relevant today, at least in terms of UK politics stuff and everything. I'm your host for this one. With birthday privileges, I'm getting the chance to host, I guess, as Owen did when it was his birthday for... What one was that, Owen? I'm trying to think what was it we saw for your birthday?
Penn and Teller get killed.
That was it. And this is one that's sort of near and dear to my heart as well. Owen will be chiming in here and there, but I think with his schedule and everything, he wasn't able to actually catch the film. I'm guessing is that the case, Owen?
Things have been a little bit... Well, things have just been a tad bit on the rough side lately, so I don't feel like I could devote the time that I'd like to be able to do so, so I'm just kind of going to be in the background tonight.
That is fair. So discussion-wise, it's going to be me and AJ.
I was trying to remember. I think this is the first movie club where this was a first-time viewing for me. I was trying to think if there was any other instance, but I don't think so.
I don't think...
Oh, Doggy Sucker was a first time for me.
Yeah. So yeah, and the thing that I didn't realize until because I was intrigued because I think it was you, AJ, that mentioned it was on the Criterion collection. I looked. This was number 26. This was like one of the first ones that went in. Like, it was apparently that significant then. I'm going by the DVD numbering rather than the Laserdisc, because that Laserdisc isn't around now. It's just a Blu-ray 4K and all that. But yeah, it's a fascinating story with the background as well, that it was going to be a TV movie, of which I'm wondering whether some of the violence and the nudity would have not happened. George Harrison comes in from out of nowhere with his handmade films, puts in the money to get a cinema thing, and I feel it should have more awards attention, than it actually did, because I sort of put this up there with The Godfather as like a really good depiction of crime from the crime side, rather than people trying to take down the villains.
It does almost feel like Hoskins' nomination for Mona Lisa was kind of like, oh, it's also for this a few years back.
Yeah. I mean, this was his sort of first major lead, if you don't count Pennies from Heaven, the Dennis Potter series he did like a couple of years before. And it's the only one, I think, where he's really played a villainous character. Everything else he's either been supporting role or sort of a happy-go-lucky sort of leading character, rather than somebody who does some quite brutal things.
Yeah, he's played intimidating characters that weren't quite villains, like when he played Eddie Mannix. I think he might have been the bad guy in that Jet Li movie.
Unleashed?
Yeah.
I think it was that one. I vaguely remember yeah. But even then, he wasn't sort of the lead. Although, to be fair,
yeah,
from the titles, it is a co-lead with him and Helen Mirren, which would have been one of her first things, because I think she probably came to fame with Caligula the year before.
Yeah, I feel like her rise was kind of in the 70s there.
Yeah, but like, and then like so many other people, like I completely forgot that like literally 2 minutes in, there's Kevin McAnally from Pirates of the Caribbean, and just in a bit where he's there and he's dead in like another 2 minutes. A couple of
It's also,
people went on to
it's
be.
also funny that he's here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's also funny that he's there because was it The Spy Who Loved Me? He was in a Bond movie, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Which is an interesting tie into who else is here.
Which one? Yeah. But we've also got a young Dexter Fletcher minding Harold's car.
Very.
Yeah.
I love it. It's literally Dexter Fletcher as a child, but you can still recognize him immediately.
Derek Thompson, this was his first major thing before he'd get a bit as playing Charlie in Casualty, and he dropped out for a bit, but he's pretty much been a constant in that show for the past 30 something years. He got his start here, and then the Mick in the room, Pierce Brosnan's debut as the first time we see him, he's trying to be a gay lover, and then a shank in the shower. And then
yeah, he plays such a crucial role, but if I remember correctly, no lines. I don't think.
I think he says hi.
None that I remember.
In the shower when Colin says hello to him. He that's the only time he's polite. But nearly, the two key scenes, he starts sort of the ball rolling in terms of stuff happening in London, and then ends the ball rolling in the infamous ending, which we'll get to. But yeah, I want to just give a shout out to Francis Monkman's score. It's something that I've had on loop for quite a while. Little known fact, one of the tracks that's playing like on a radio, I think it's when he goes to find Errol and they're working on the car. There's a song on the radio, like a reggae style song. Bob Hoskins is doing the singing on it. Just weird. But he does a really sort of good dramatic stuff. I do like the fact that at least on the Amazon version, when it starts with the subtitles, the brackets say exciting music. As if we weren't to know.
I watched this on Max, and I've got some interesting things to say about the subtitle.
Oh. What did Warner Brothers? Well, I was gonna say, I guess it carried over from HBO Max. So I don't know whether to blame the old Warner Brothers or Warner Brothers Discovery or both. I don't know. But yeah, so it sort of starts nondescript, with this farmhouse somewhere, and then somebody's getting off a boat with a briefcase, pinches some money out of the case. The deal is done, and they're counting the money in the house, and then they get killed, even though we never see them shot. The whole they were like eliminate. The word it was the only word I think I remember being used was eliminated, which would imply they were killed, but we never saw such thing. So that's
It's
so,
an it's an in- it's an interesting choice for how violent and bloody the movie is.
yeah.
For the opening scene to just kind of cut itself off.
And then from there we get Colin chatting up Kevin and the chauffeur and whatever. Well, the taxi driver, I should say. And then by chance he doesn't go out the bar immediately. Colin does, and the other two, somebody who isn't even like kid, isn't even like a part of this thing. He's just somebody that sort of comes on to Colin, and then, well, too bad you related to. Too bad you got friendly with him. You're now dead. We're sticking you by a fence.
And we didn't mention that Colin is a very recognizable face with Paul Freeman from Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
He's Belhog in Raiders. He's Ivan Ooze, and he's Reverend Shooter in Hot Fuzz.
Yeah. Oh, piss off. And it then transitions with the body having to repatriated from Belfast, as it we eventually find out sort of halfway through to London, and then we meet Jeff and the councilman, which I am wondering whether the councilman actually is like a key factor in it as well. Because the short of the matter is, I don't know why I'm trying to say spoilers, because hopefully if it's Movie Club you've watched the thing. The reveal is basically the IRA was paid off because of other stuff relating to other building work and whatever. And I'm guessing it was supposed to be maybe the police that jumped the crew of them in the house. And they're thinking that somebody within Harold's group snitched, which has led to everything that sort of occurs in the thing. Which is I somehow wonder whether that was like, because we do see a scene sort of midway through where he's a bit too sloshed and he's sort of spilling way too many beans. Part of me is wondering whether he got sloshed, said the wrong thing to the wrong people, got wind of it happening, and what I'm trying to say is he probably deserved getting shot with a shotgun in the final 10 minutes. Maybe. I don't know.
What I was really starting to like about it as it went is the story is really good and it's a great setup. But it did start to feel like as it went on, what was going to happen next as far as story kind of became less relevant, and it was more about how the characters would react to it is what we were waiting for. Because there's so many characters in this, and they all have big reactions. They're very reactionary characters, especially Hoskins. And I found that where it was like, because the reveal of what's going on feels like it's kind of early. Like if it was a more traditionally told story, that would have been like the last 5 minutes or so, but it's like the last 20 minutes. And then we just kind of get a sort of aftermath of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Aftermath's not the word I'm looking for, but like repercussions of what happens.
Yeah.
With that 20 minutes to go or so.
Yeah, certainly.
Because there's so much going on with the counselor and Jeff and stuff like that. You almost forget about the Americans. Where it's like, oh, because one thing that I loved about the concept of the story of the movie is this is a movie that's played very straight, but I almost feel like this same story could also be a comedy in how these things are escalating out control, and he's trying to make sure the Americans don't know what's going on. And I feel like there's a comedy plot in there somewhere where he has to constantly be covering up why these drastic things are happening.
Yeah, as soon as the bomb goes off in the pub, and Harold's like, look, come up with something, try and keep him off the scent, and all she has to do, natural gas leaks, man. And within like an hour of them getting to the restaurant, their alternative arrangements and whatever, Charlie is just like, cut the crap. That's a bomb. What is actually going on?
And I say it could be the concept of a comedy, but the movie does have a twisted sense of humor already intact. I particularly like the line, "You don't go crucifying people outside a church, not on Good Friday."
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely something darkly comic about that line in particular.
I'd say just as much so the guy who actually gets crucified to the floor of like the factory. Which I guess technically is not in bad faith because it was on Easter Saturday, the day after. It wasn't Good Friday. So yeah, basically I think everything we see in the whole revolves maybe around a week or so. But like everything with Harold, as soon as he arrives back from America, is over like 48 hours.
I was thinking it was like a weekend or something.
Yeah, it was Good Friday going into Easter Saturday. So which, considering then it's Easter Sunday, does the ending mean he rose again? I don't know. We'll never know. But yeah, and the one little touch as well that I do like, which it again adds to the mystery, is the woman in the hearse getting out and just spitting on Jeff. And Jeff's just like, what's going on? But then immediately as well, we get a glimpse of Razors, basically the chauffeur, the other right-hand man for Harold, who, he's another one that was like, that's the one from Lock, Stock, isn't it?
I especially loved Razors because Razors feels like a character that's like half out of Goodfellas and half out of a comic book.
Yeah, with the
like with all the scars and everything.
63 scars. Like, okay. I kind of didn't want to know that, but okay. It introduces everybody. You sort of get to understand everybody, even sort of Colin, even though he's only briefly there, by that sort of brilliantly written sort of monologue from Harold about their time basically in the war when they served, and whatever and everything. They do like keep making jokes and everything, so
that scene brings to mind a few things. Where I love how the movie's shot overall, because it's got a very, for how much is happening, it's a very restrained way of shooting. Like, I love the fact when he's reminiscing, when he's like mourning Colin, and he's doing that monologue. I like how you would expect like the camera would be like pushing in on him, but it's just this wide shot with is it Jeff and Razors, I think, who were there with him?
Yeah.
And it just holds on this one shot without anything moving while he does his monologue. And I thought that was a really great restrained way to do that, because Hoskins is putting all the emotion in it without there needing to be any visual flair to tell you how he's feeling.
Yeah.
Because another shot that I loved was were shots that like technically feel flashy, but aren't that elaborate. Like when they're on the yacht and he's doing his monologue and the bridge is coming into view behind him, and then we see the bridge get farther away as this monologue goes on. It's like the way they use the background and the location was really, I was really drawn to that too.
Yeah. Well, again, because it's his speech about London, it's only fair that it starts as Tower Bridge sort of just looms as they've just made their way under as part of their big sort of.
Yeah, because there's even that. Yeah, because there's even that moment where like the bridge frames his head for a little bit too.
Yeah. And the other shot I like as well is the build to the pub bombing, where you get the shot from like inside the dining room upstairs, past everything, on the tables all set out nice and all that, and you go through the window and you see the cars pulling up, or coming down the road. You cut to the car shot, and within 2 seconds, bang, the entire thing's gone. It doesn't even really sort of build tension. It just seems like a just a travel shot going through, and when you see him coming in, sort of don't expect the sort of big explosion to happen immediately. Everything, with that.
The scene where he's reminiscing about Colin also was a moment of when I realized how sort of half-assed the subtitles were.
Oh God, is this why you want to mention some of the issues?
Well, here's the thing: is usually the subtitles on Max are really spot on. And so you would expect the highest quality of subtitles from a streaming service like this. Like when we talked about Brain Scan and I talked about the censored subtitles. That's one thing, because that was Tubi. Tubi's the Wild West. But you have there's the great line, once again kind of showing the dark sense of humor but also in a moment of passion, when they say that they're going to keep Colin in the freezer, and he says there's a lot of dignity in that, going out like a raspberry ripple.
Yeah.
Apparently the subtitles didn't know what a raspberry ripple was.
Oh God.
So it said raspberry riddle, and there were a lot of those where they misinterpreted it, but then there were times where they gave up. Like there was a moment when there were a couple of times where I can get it because the accent and the terminology gets really heavy. But there were times where I could understand. There was one where it's the scene where they're interrogating Errol, I think, and he says something about where Eric is, and he says, like bits of my Eric probably flew past her window. It's something like that. But instead of that bit where he talks about bits of Eric going by your window, it was in parentheses and it just said inaudible, and that happened like 5 times. Where it just said inaudible for some words.
I was waiting for the only thing I was wondering whether they were going to get confused, because Siskel and Ebert brought it up when they reviewed it, was the grass thing. Like when you grass a grass and grass, like do it 3 times in a row. Would the subtitles like get that, or would it be just a shrug emoji?
Yeah, there was also when he mentions Guy Fawkes, it's spelled Fox.
Oh, great. Oh, chestnut. But it's interesting. It's sort of, it's Harold basically.
There was also one where you could see the thought process, because it's when they go out to like lunch with the Americans, I think it was, with Helen Mirren and them, and they order hors d'oeuvres, or they mention hors d'oeuvres, but you could see where they were like, I don't remember how to spell hors d'oeuvres, so the subtitle was appetizers.
Oh, great.
Like you could tell, like, wait, like where does it split up? Where's the apostrophe? I don't remember. Let's just put appetizer.
Oh god. But yeah, it's an interesting sort of unraveling, I guess, for Harold, with everything sort of sorted to going very unsorted over 48 hours and everything. First, trying to use his knowledge with the police sort of snitches and the informers with what's his name, Denzel from the Full Monty, getting his butt slashed by razors. I guess that's what he did, the Full Monty. I don't know. He was already used to the partial nudity.
That was another line that I loved when they drag Errol out of the room naked, and and Harold says to him, "Put some deodorant on."
Yeah. But then, like, the aspect
What
as
what I
well
was
of.
actually
I mean, I
we
was
kind
gonna.
we kind of started talking about Hawkins at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying?
I was gonna say, like, the aspect that sort of comes from that with with Harold basically saying this used to be a nice town, and now it's just gone to drivel. Which you can clearly tell is that you can clearly tell is sort of maybe the racist of him coming out, because practically everybody that was in the street was black. Um,
Yeah, that's the vibe I got.
yeah. And the added irony is it's like, oh, well, this is all going to be redeveloped in time for the 1988 Summer Olympics bid. And then, okay, it probably didn't involve criminals that I'm aware of. But the for real life, like 15 years later, when London 2012 got approved, basically. They were just like, it was that far ahead of its time because Stratford was a relatively run down area of London, and now it's pretty well regarded because of the development stuff. But yeah, you were saying, AJ?
We were kind of talking about Hoskins at the beginning, but yeah, it's easy to tell how this was a star-making performance.
Yeah.
When I think what I especially love about him is we talked about how he's played intimidating characters in the past, but the fact that one of the things he's also known for was his like short kind of stature, like his small stature.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that suited this character so well because I was trying to figure out how to word this exactly. Harold feels like a character that's like he feels low level and at the top at the same time, kind of depending on who he's interacting with. And the way he was able to go back and forth on that, where he's just as believable when he like has guys hanging upside down and he's like threatening them, and then when he's freaking out after he's killed Jeff and Helen Mirren hits him and he's like a wounded dog. And it's like both of those are believable when he's big and when he's small.
You sort of
I
get that
also
sort of
like
feeling as well with the bit where he sees the widow. You see the rap side of him
yeah.
when she's obviously angry at him. He obviously completely oblivious to what's happened while he was away, so he just slaps her, sort of knocks some sense into her. But then when he finds out what's happened, he's like, "No, we'll pay. We'll send you some money and we'll get you a good gravestone for your husband." And then it's sort of also to the extent when he's trying to learn what's going on. you sort of sense he's a sort of low level trying to understand what's going on, because obviously he doesn't know what Jeff did, I guess, sort of behind his back, or I guess partly sort of unaware of what was going to become the looming rise of the IRA and British incidents over the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it's crazy with the way everything played out, and how like complex the sort of web going on here is. I love how it's actually pretty simple, the explanation of why this is all going on. Like that kind of took me by surprise in a good way.
It's just him.
And then the way that it leads to where it was like, as soon as the reveal happened, my first thought was, okay, so Jeff is not long for this world then. I didn't expect it was going to be right then and there.
You didn't expect
that was like
it
genuinely.
I've gone wrong with the whiskey bottle. Wang wang wang.
It's like I think how graphic it was caught me off guard too, but still it was like I didn't expect him to kill him right then and there, which is great.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings up, there's a word that comes to mind, and I hate using it because it sounds so pretentious YouTuber talking about Wes Anderson, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I liked the sort of symmetry in the events, where like as far as events closer together, you have the moment where I think it was Phil's widow at the cemetery, and there's the moment where he slaps her to have her come to her senses, and then how that's kind of mirrored by him killing Jeff and then Marin having to slap him. But then there's the greater one where we have the opening scene where money's being delivered and then it's being counted, and then there's an ambush, which is what happens at the Derby, where we come full circle to money being delivered, it being counted, there's an ambush, and how he brought it like right back around.
Yeah.
I found that satisfying in a way, even though it made me use the word symmetry. But
I still think one of the best scenes is the elevator, the lift scene, where Jeff is escorting. I'm trying to remember what Victoria. You know, because she's obviously a bit concerned by what's going on. And, you know, she makes the thing like, you know, sometimes it's hard to think, you know, when you're crammed in a lift with people. And then there's just this long stare, and they're just staring and getting closer together. And Jeff just from out of nowhere is just like, I want to lick you all over. I'm like, I mean,
I think it was every inch of you is what he said.
Yeah, I want to lick every inch of you, and it was just like, that's come from out of nowhere. That doesn't seem to be his attitude.
Yeah, because for a while the look in the elevator looked mutual for a while.
As soon as he said that, you sort of, the look didn't change on her, but you could already sense in her mind, she's like, what the shit? And then, you know, Saved by the Bell as the doors open and she basically gets the hell out of there to her room or whatever. Hopefully. And it makes you wonder if he hadn't have been so upfront with her, would he have got caught? Because it's from that point we cut to the abattoir scene, and he loses it on one of the sort of informers that they have within the crew. So it's like he's even becoming unsettled.
Yeah, as far as Jeff goes, the elevator felt like a turning point.
I mean, to some extent as well, like when they're driving to the pub before it gets blown, he purposefully is the one that makes sure he's the one that's with the counselor. Again, showing like, he doesn't want to deal with anybody else. And yeah, I think this like pleased to see that Helen Mirren did get sort of co-billing because she does feel a very Lady Macbeth-esque character, and that she also knows at the right time to like when to get Harold into gear. Harold's all about trying to sort of take take Charlie to see everywhere there is to see, which he just wants to rush it. And she comes in like, the boat's coming into moor. You'll be able to get some rest then. Come on, Harold. Let's let him rest. Like she's more. She's sometimes more that I think Harold is. Harold's sort of like too keen to like boast. Look, I've got this American, not mafia, honest investor for my casino and everything. Whereas she, although she's basically sort of like the trophy wife, if you will, because it is brought up about how his mum can't get over the fact that he divorced like somebody 10 years before. Although she's the trophy wife, she's actually probably, in some cases, I mean, as you said, the bit where she sort of slaps him into gear and they destroy the clothing that leads to any clue about what happened to Jeff and everything. It's clear that like she knows what's going on as well. I mean, like she's sort of, maybe she comes up with the ideas and Harold just goes with them. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that gives the power that the ending has, because things have kind of been out of Harold's control through the whole movie, despite how hardened he is.
Mm-hmm.
So it does feel like when he gets in the car and Pierce Brosnan pulls the gun on him, there is a sense of helplessness there, and like it's out of his control. But it's not really until we drive by and see that they have her too, and now it's out of both of their control, is when it truly feels dire and helpless.
I mean, to some extent, that sort of, when he goes in to see the Americans just as they're about to lead the Savoy and everything, it's like he thinks he's sort of, in his head, he thinks everything's sorted by having killed off, the IRA leader. They won't mess with him now, sort of. And the Americans are too spooked by it, so they want to just get out of Dodge and, deal with somebody else. And he again does a sort of like dramatic sort of speech, like, completely condescending of the Americans who he lauded about so much at the start. And then, of course, doing the old war thing. Can you believe it? We're going to go into partnership with the Germans. And then the immortal line, because I think is it Irish or Americans? I've shit them. That's like the last proper line of the film. I've shit them. Like, okay.
Yeah, I think that was Irish directed.
Yeah. And just, it's very well. The thing that didn't surprise me is like the whole incident with Jeff, and when it sort of starts to unravel, with him feeling that violence is the only way. Always within the last 15 minutes. So I'm like, at 10 minutes in, I'm like, so I know the ending. Where is this going to go in the 10 minutes? And, the way it's all sort of done with the... I like the bait and switch with the sniper, who then actually bursts him with the shotgun instead. It was a bit sort of unexpected.
I think that's all the notes I had.
Yeah. I guess to the chat. Do you want to go through it, Owen?
Sure. All right. Spencer says, "Good evening, guys. 1981 was quite a low point for film for me, but I enjoyed this movie. Helen Mirren is super hot in this movie. She is a gift."
Yeah. I mean, this would have been when she was 30, 31 or 32. And this is before, like, some of her more iconic... Was Cook the Thief his wife and her lover, like, 82 or 83 from Greenway?
I think it's like 89. It's late 80s.
Oh, is it late 80s? So, like, that's when people went with her. She's the one that gets naked for neglecting 10 years before with Caligula.
Spencer says Barry Keefe wrote a sequel, Black Easter Monday, that was set 20 years after the events of the first movie.
Yeah, from what I remember,
I'm
like,
assuming
the plot was, it sort of was partly a directly follow-up, because what it was going to be is the car would get pulled over by police. I don't know whether that would result in a gunfight or whatever. But Harold would escape to Jamaica and come back like 10 or so years later when his turf is getting targeted by the Yardie gang, and he's going to take them out to sort of clean up the city sort of thing. Which,
the ending is so perfect. I kind of hate that.
Yeah, I know. It sort of is a little... I mean, I guess the closest thing I guess we got to a sort of sequel, but because it's sort of a similar-ish vein, is, ironically, if you're in the UK, it's on iPlayer, I think, for the next 6-7 weeks. The other film he wrote, it was like 2010, it was called Sus, S-U-S, which of course now is just associated with like Among Us and memes, but I think that was supposed to be a character similar to Errol, that was sort of, like a snitch, sort of, the earpiece for whoever, and that apparently also an interesting... I don't want to say that the ending of Long Good Friday is sort of a twist, but apparently there's an ending that there's good writing in that as well.
Keefe seemed unconcerned by the lack of development in some ways. I'm glad we didn't, because sequels are usually diminishing returns. To put it up there with Casablanca, no one wants Casablanca 2. Final scene was later referenced in the TV series Brian Pern and in the film The Gentleman.
I had to buy
found a goof.
I had to buy the Brian Pern one to see what it was. So the idea of that is it's supposed to be like a rock musician that sort of, liked by many, loved by fans, but for some reason hated by Peter Gabriel. What they do with the ending is basically the same sort of thing. He gets hauled off in the car. His wife and partner or whatever are in another car passing by, and then rather than Pierce Brosnan, it's Peter Gabriel with the gun. And then Simon Day as Brian Pern is now just doing like weird over exaggerated faces, which they're not really exaggerated with Hoskins. I guess it is at the start because he's angry, but like that ending bit with Hoskins, it's sort of him going through sort of the 7 stages of grief. And like by the time we get to the end of it, it's just acceptance of like, well, I'm done here. And then you get the similar scene to that at the end of The Gentleman is when the 2 Russians are in McConaughey's Land Rover. And he's sort of there realising that he's done for. Of course, the twist is there that then the shooting happens. You know, where everybody gets blasted by the kids in the back of the transit van and whatever. But then, interestingly, of course, then transitions to the reporter saying that's what needs to be the Hollywood-style ending for the film. You know, the guy in the back of the car. Which I'm wondering whether that's Guy Ritchie just legit just saying the ride had a damn good ending, right?
Spencer says also the last shot of the swimming pool being drained is water coming in, but it's shown in reverse.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah.
I hope I don't miss any of the commentary in chat because the next message I have is from an hour ago from Josie.
I think that's what I have.
The real estate scheme that Hoskins, huh?
I think that's what I have. Yeah, that's next in the list. So.
Okay. Real estate scheme that Hoskins tries to pull off reminds me of Inherent Vice.
Yeah.
Brian lost his interest at about 30 minutes in, but shocked how Helen Mirren looked so young back then. Cinematographer Phil Mayhew also shot Morons from Outer Space, Bicentennial Man, The Saint, Mask of Zorro, Legend of Zorro, Scum, and 2 of John McKenzie's other movies, Beyond the Limit and Fourth Protocol.
Wow.
Hoskins' voice.
Cinematography wise, that does not feel the same as either of the Zorro films or Bicentennial Man. The others I can probably just about get.
Like the Fourth Protocol makes sense at least.
Yeah.
Apparently, Hoskins' voice was dubbed over by a Wolverhampton actor for fear Americans wouldn't understand his London accent.
Or people that write subtitles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the version that we got, the 2K restoration for the UK, was just. I mean, it sounded like him. It didn't sound dubbed.
Yeah.
Now, if some of this has been covered before in the show, my apologies. I'm just reading it verbatim off chat. After Hoskins threatened to sue Jack Gill and British Lion, the original producers before Handmade bought the rights, the dubbing was removed.
Oh, I see. So that actually would have been what happened. What channel would that have been on? I guess Masterpiece Theatre, because if it was supposed to be a ITV production, that'd probably end up like where Downton Abbey and Morse and all those sort of things go. Maybe.
Josie said he was supported by Richard Burton, Sir Alec Guinness, and Warren Beatty.
That's some good names.
That's an old line.
Josie says, thoughts and prayers, Owen. Thanks, Josie. I appreciate that. We'll get there eventually. This film was Pierce Brosnan's feature film debut, as we mentioned in chat. This part was supposed to be completely silent, but the only dialogue he had was hi. It was improvised. Harold's plan for the London docks prophetically predicted the creation of Canary Wharf.
I never thought about that. I was just thinking because of the Olympics thing. I was just sticking on the Olympics. I didn't think of Dockland's Canary Wharf. Like, it was in the face, staring me in the face.
Well, AJ, I don't know if he's still with us or not because I don't know if he dipped out, but he did chime in. Your dad was in chat. Said, "Good evening, gents."
That's random.
Tell me about it. And in the decade we've been doing this, I don't think that's ever happened before.
I wanted AJ's reaction to it, but then cue in the music at the end of the thing. It'd just be some. It fits.
In her 2008 autobiography, "In the Frame: My Life in Words and Pictures," Helen Mirren claimed it was at her idea Victoria was made more complex than just the stereotypical mob mole.
Hey,
this is Josie comments. Bob Hoskins received a fan letter for his performance from notorious London gangster Ron Cray. AJ, your Raspberry Ripple line was an improv from Bob Hoskins.
Wow.
Nice.
It was going out like a chalk ice, but everyone agreed Hoskins' version was funnier.
Well, considering, Colin being gay, it sort of maybe does reflect the sort of the tongue-in-cheek sort of attitude he had to him, the character ever since he knew. If that fits, a Raspberry Ripple fits more, did better description than chalk ice.
I would love to see Eddie Mannix solve the case of this real estate scheme and fight himself. Dame Helen Mirren's uncle George Dawson was a London gangster. She recalled quite a few East End gangsters were extras in the scene where Harold rallies the troops. I'd be all, "Did you ever hear of my Uncle George?" "What, George Dawson?" "Yeah, he went to jail,
Maybe that's why she's like so good as Shaw's mother in the Fast films, because she's tapping into her uncle's sort of repertoire.
Harold Shand's vision about how the Isle of Dogs could make Britain proud again was based on rumblings about the redevelopment of the docklands that Barry Keefe heard from county officials. Hoskins didn't work for a year after the movie. There was a...
I was going to say, I kind of find it interesting that, like, he overheard it from the council officials, so that's why he put a council-style official in the script.
Keefe drew on his experiences as a cub reporter for Stratford Express in the 1960s when the Cray twins ruled the East End. Keefe met a few criminals who ended up in small roles in the movie. John McKenzie talked on the DVD commentary about how people walked in and tried to order drinks, didn't believe it was a movie set. Barry Keefe's life brought two scenes from reality: a widow lifting her veil and spitting in his face, and the story of the man being nailed to the warehouse floor. I interviewed that man in the hospital. Keefe remembers now and said, "What exactly happened?" He said, "Don't you understand English, son? It was a do-it-yourself accident went wrong." Question from Josie: who is the best performance in this movie other than Hoskins?
That's hard to say since it's such an ensemble. like everybody's kind of a moving part in it equally.
Ashley, you have an answer? Shirt. Silent. Back. Ashley, who gives the best performance beside Hoskins?
I want to give like a shout out to Eddie Considine because I think that's rather understated. Because he doesn't play like a loudmouth American. He's like a calm, actually collected sort of mafia gangster. You know, Scorsese would go, "No, make him loud. They're all like that, right?" Other than Helen Mirren and Derek Thompson, who I think are the sort of standouts. Really, I really liked Eddie sort of downplayed Charlie.
This film nominated for Best Lead Actor for Hoskins at the '82 BAFTAs, losing to Burt Lancaster for Atlantic City, Jeremy Irons for The French Lieutenant's Woman, and De Niro for Raging Bull. Josie says replace one of the 5 '82-'83 Best Actor nods with Hoskins. Kingsley, Lemon, O'Toole, and Newman.
Which O'Toole was that?
My favorite year.
Damn. Definitely. That was missing, so Lemon's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Fuck. Maybe it's... Damn it. It's fuck. I want to say I can't take any of them out, but I do. I have to. I guess O'Toole would be it. Begrudgingly.
Ashley, your thoughts?
I'll check who the 5th one is because I only saw 4 names in there.
Kingsley, Lemon, O'Toole, and Newman is what I have listed.
Yeah, that's 4. Hang on. Oh, Hoffman for Tootsie.
Wasn't listed on there.
Out of the 5, I'd say O'Toole probably.
Best original screenplay: Gandhi, E.T., Diner, Tootsie, and An Officer and a Gentleman.
I'd take out Gandhi.
Wow.
Gandhi's not really it's not really a screenplay movie to me.
Sure.
I'm trying to think.
Ashley?
I don't recognize Diner personally. So I don't know whether I take that one out. Yeah, because I know of the other 4, I'd probably take out Diner, but that probably means I need to watch Diner at some point.
Yes, Diner is very screenplay oriented.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
Are you sure? Are you sure you don't know what Diner is?
No.
I literally have it like right. Oh, where the fuck is it? Here it is.
I don't even know.
It's the next year too, Ashley. It was 1982 with Barry Levinson.
Yeah, with this massive cast list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Like Guttenberg and Rourke and Bacon.
This is the movie that originated the sticking your dick in the popcorn trick. They're popular.
So, Mackenzie, would you replace Sir Richard Attenborough? Not Sir back then. Spielberg, Peterson, Lumet, or Pollock?
I hate to say it because I love Tootsie so much, but I could probably take Pollock out of director.
Yeah, Pollock, I'd say.
Again.
Pollock's done other, I'd say, more big films, or more outstanding work, if you want to call it that.
But that's a good lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Josie says Paul Freeman's birthday is shared with Joanna Newsom, John Borman, and 3 references on here that we currently make. Mark Rylance.
Would it help?
Zombie Sailor's best friend, Kevin Costner. And Forever Eating, Dave Bautista.
Give me what I want.
If you haven't read Cosmic Rewind, you don't get that reference, but that's fine. To your point, AJ, Bob Hoskins is naturally funny too, says Josie.
Yes.
Agreed. Brian Marshall Harris is in a TV adaptation of one of my favorite novels, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall.
Yeah, there's quite a bit that I recognise him from as well. Various bits here and there, just sort of on TV and movies.
And apparently Barry Keefe's birthday is Halloween.
Oh.
My friend Tim chimes in. Hello, Tim. Brian says, I will say this, I will go back to the silver duck, you sucker.
Yeah. I mean, it's shorter. And, like, when it starts going super crazy is probably about halfway, so you dipping out after 30 minutes, you haven't got to as much meaty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the first act build to sort of the bubbling violence of the second act, and then shit's hit the fan third act at violence.
And it looks like Josie's going to get the last word here. I love Eddie Constantine too.
I sort of want to see like more stuff that he was in, and then when I look it up, it's like mostly just B movies, which is a shame because it's like I feel he could have like done a lot more sort of big stuff if he was given the right opportunity.
I think that would be our show then.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to know what's next, you better tune in 24 hours when our next selections come up for you to vote on in chat and everything. In terms of other stuff, do you want to go through like the schedule of, I wouldn't say schedule of what's coming up, but Popcast Network stuff, Owen?
Yeah, sure. I still have some things I need to film, so we'll have that eventually. Lots of sip and snack content, more Voices of Liberty content. AJ content's forthcoming soon. A new movie review should be out before the week's over. 3 intense thriller movies that have a horror base to them. Good way to put it, honestly. 3 solid films that I enjoyed for different reasons. They're going to be talked about on the network very soon. Ashley's going to be starting to bring more content to the channel. It sounds like if we can get everything worked out, his Twitch streams may somehow find their way to the networks. So we get some more gaming content on the channel. See how that plays with the GP and with the audience, because we haven't had really much gaming content on here. Not playthrough gaming content, stuff like that. We'll see what kind of a appeal that would have to our tune-in audience. Ashley can be found on Ashley's My Name UK on Twitter, and he has some snack stashes we just posted Those are up now. We're going to check those out. And more Ashley content forthcoming on the channel. He actually got to Prime before I did. So check that out if you haven't yet. Do so. AJ, of course, can be found not on any form of social media, but if you want to leave him a comment, you're more than welcome to do so on any video that he does. And if you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to chime in every other week here on the Popcast Network for our QA shows, which plug tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Probably the three of us. We'll probably see Chris in January, July. Take a shot in June. Don't know what day it is anymore, literally. So yeah, June, Chris should be returning to the network probably for the next movie club. His pick will be announced tomorrow as well, so we can determine who is going to select the next episodes of Popcast Movie Club as we move into the 30s for the actual segment itself. You want to follow me on Twitter? We're not much to see right now. At Surround Disney. Discord server. If you want to add to it, feel free to. Link in the description bar below. My apologies for not being on camera. I feel like it's probably best right now. Lots on my mind. I definitely not going into it. But that's your show, everyone. And thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you, live chat, for joining us. Thank you for checking out the archive of the show. We'll see you tomorrow at the Q&A. And until next time, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.